In October 2019, the American Psychological Association introduced the 7th edition, which effectively replaced the 6th edition, which had been there since 2009. So we've been using APS 7th edition since 2019, nearly 2 years. It's enough time for most schools and students to update to the current edition. But it's normal to find some schools or some students still using the 6th edition, either because they are not aware that we have the 7th edition, or maybe they just prefer the 6th edition. So you find many lecturers, when they are setting questions, they just say use the most current APA because they have too much already on their plate to start tracking which edition is the current one. So they just say use the current edition. So what I'm going to do in this video, I'm just going to run you guys through APA 6th edition. I know you might encounter situations where you need to be using 6th edition. Ni ya kitambo, but some people still use it for some reasons. So to do that, I'm going to use a sample paper. I downloaded this from the APA themselves, so I'm just gonna use it so that we have a look at what it entails. So you can see in APA 6th edition, they still use the running head. So the running head appeared on every single page, but the word running head only appeared on the first page. But this is a shortened version of the title, so you have to shorten it. There are no guidelines specifically for how to shorten it, but you have to shorten it yourself. Just find a way to make it shorter so that it fits here, one line, and then you have to write it in all caps. So basically, the running header is just the title, running in all pages on the header section of your document. But the words running head only appear in on the first page. The rest is just the title alone for the rest of the pages. So when you're inserting the headers, you need to select a different first page. So there's a setting on Word which we will look at shortly that allows you to have a different header for the first page alone, and then you can maintain the others for the same thing for the rest of the pages. So that is that, and then of course you have the page number, which is justified to the right, the flash right, and the running head should be on the left side. So we have the running head on the left side, and then the page numbers on the right side. So usually what I do when I'm inserting the page number, I just write down the title, and then of course now I have to put it in caps, and then while I'm still on the header, I insert the page numbers, so which will also do that. So in APA 7th edition, the contents of the cover page were that you need to write the title, the name, the school, the course, the instructor, and the date. But in APA 6th edition, they only require you to write the title of the assignment, the name of the student, and the school. So you only have title, name, and institution affiliations. And then of course you have an author note, and all these are not required for student papers. But if papers you are going to publish or writing for publication, you may need to include the author note. But these ones are only for publications. For student papers, do not write the author note. The abstract, again, if you have, if you need to write an abstract, the same whatever appeared in APA 7, sorry, is also on APA 6. So there's not really much about it. An abstract is just an abstract. It's just like more or less like a summary of your document, or just setting out what the document is going to do. So you can see the abstract is usually on its own page. That's the same case in APA 7th edition. It has to be on a separate page following the title page. The word abstract is centered, and you do not ident. I have noticed you do not ident this paragraph, the abstract. So do not bold the word abstract. And then on the third page, again, just to emphasize that not every paper requires an abstract, but should you be told to do an abstract, then do so. And then we start our work on the third page. We also start with the title. In APA 7th edition, they want you to boldface the title, but in APA 6, you can just see it's in title case, which is capital V, capital D, capital O, capital C, capital T, and all that. But it's not in bold like we are doing in APA 7th edition. So the title is in level 1 heading, which is not bold, and this is pretty much that about the title. Then of course, I think another thing that maybe this document is missing is that we used to have a heading for introduction. So sometimes you could have a heading here called introduction. So just take note of that again, just to emphasize that the title is not bold but centered and in title case. Then of course you go to other levels of headings. So I think this is still level 1. Which is of course the same as APA 7th edition, which is centered and bold and in title case. Then of course remember to ident the first line of every paragraph. In-text citations still remain the same, is surname and the year of publication for one author. For 2 authors, you put the 2 of them. For 3 authors, you remember just to include ETAL if there are more than 3 authors. I think there are more specific guidelines about that if there are more than 3 authors, if there are 3 authors rather, the first time you are mentioning them, you mention all of them. But subsequent times you mention them, you just mention the first one and then use et al. So this is the trickiest thing about APA 6, that whenever you are talking about 2 authors, we have no problem about that. You mention all of them in all situations. 1 author, again, mention all of them. Of course, you have to mention all of them because it's just 1 author. But when you have 3 authors, specifically 3 authors, the first time you are mentioning them in the in-text citations, you mention all their surnames, like in this case. But subsequent cases in the same document where you refer to the same authors, and there are 3, just use the first one, and then of course the ETAL that we've been talking about in APA 7 to represent and others. But if there are more than 3 authors, like 4, 5, at no circumstance are you supposed to mention all of them. If there are more than 3, just use et al. The first time. So that is the only thing that I think is confusing about APA 6th edition. So you need to really watch out on that, because it's very easy to confuse that. If there are 3 authors, I'm emphasizing again, the first time you're mentioning them, please include all their surnames in the in-text citations. But for subsequent in-text citations within the same document, kindly just stick with the first author and ETAL for the others. But if there are more than 3, in this case 4, 5, or 6, at no place are you supposed to be mentioning all of them. Yeah, so I think that is clear, because I think if you are including a lot of surnames in the document, it might take away a lot from the paper if you're having so many surnames. So that the same things appeared when you're quoting a book. Please also include the page number. When you're making direct quotations, page number again you need to include. So I think that's pretty much about APA 6th edition. The levels of heading remain the same. These are level 2 heading. It's just the same as what we've been learning in APA 7th edition. These are level 2. Okay, so level 1, of course, centered and bold. Level 2, it's just not indented but on the left margin. Of course, you need to bold it, and in title case as well. And then level 3, you ident, and of course, you don't start a paragraph on a different line. You just continue on the same line. These are level 3 heading. So I think level 4, that will be italicized. I don't think if they have that here, they don't. But in most cases, you don't need to write up to level 4 in level 3s. In fact, in most cases, you just stop at level 3. You should not break down your paper further into level 4s and level 5s. But if you need to do that, I can send you this document. You can refer to it. but you can also refer online. I'll send you the link where I got this paper. They have more information about that. So on the references, in APA 7, we are bolding the word references. We are bolding the word references in APA 7. And then in APA 7 also, they want us to include the URL. In most cases for documents that are scholarly, you need to include the DOI URL. So you can see in APA 6, they did not need the links, the URLs rather, and also the word references is not bold. But of course, you need to also ident by hanging and then arrange alphabetically. So that still remains the same. So let us see, look this document. So let's say this was on effects of corruption. So the title will be, of course, we'll center it and let's just put it a little bit in the middle of the paper. So I'm just gonna click enter and then name and institution. So APS 6 heading will be like that, institution affiliations. So this will be the cover page, and then they want you to also repeat the title when you start writing on page 2. So also have that there, which is centered again. And then the header, when you just double click the header, remember to select this option, different first page, because we just want the word running head to appear on the first page alone. So I'm gonna click this, and then I type running head full colon, and then I just paste the title. And then I just wanna highlight the title, and then I want it to be in caps. Then while it's still highlighted, I want to copy it so that I'll paste on page 2. While I'm here, I want to insert the page number. So I'll just click tab key so that the page number goes far right. So I'm just clicking tab key twice so that my cursor is somewhere here. So and then I insert page number. I want it to insert at current position where I left my cursor blinking here. So I'll select current position and then of course plain number 3. I don't know in this case, yeah, plain number. I think plain number. Yeah, plain number. Just select plain. So once you have this, you can just scroll down to the second page and again paste that title that you copied on your clipboard. Click tab key twice so that the cursor moves far right. Then insert page number, select current position, then of course the plain number. So that is APA 6, and then you just continue writing as usual. Remember, you start with an introduction, the body. You can demarcate, or rather you can split your paper into subsections. Remember level 1 heading. Let me just assume we have an introduction there, and then we have maybe political effects, or let me start with economic effects. So this will be a level 1 heading, so I'll bold it. So maybe under economic effects, I have several things I want to talk about. Maybe effects on GDP, effect on employment, and then of course maybe we want to talk about effect on FDI. So this will be a level 1 heading. These are level 2 headings. You can see they are not indented. They are just flash to the left and they are bold and in title case. So maybe if I want to talk about now economic social effects, rather I'll just create another level 2 heading which will be centered social effects. Let me just center this so that it's a level 2 heading. So that's how you can split your work into these sections. So if you had other things within GDP, that will be level 3, will be a level 3. So level 3, they want you to ident. So maybe sorry, just click ident once. I'm just clicking tab key, and then you can have point 1 maybe a heading for that, and then point 2. So maybe you have several things under GDP that you wanted to talk about. Maybe GDP per capita, GDP per capita. Maybe you wanted to talk about deficit or anything like that. So this will be level 3s. You can see they are indented. Yeah, but in most cases you don't need to go as far as level 3, but if you need to, you can do that. And remember, level 3, when you're using it, we just continue writing ahead of it, in front of it, strictly in front of it. Just continue the paragraph, but just make sure the paragraph is not in bold. So we can just continue writing here. Remember, for other headings, the heading is on a separate line on itself, but for level 3, you just write it. You make sure you ident it as you would for a paragraph, and then you continue writing in front of it. But for this other level, level 1 and 2, for you to start writing, you need to start a fresh line so that the heading is on its own line. But for level 3, you start writing just ahead of it. Just put a full stop and continue writing. So that is all about APS 6. So remember the reference page, you just have your references as always, but the word reference is not in bold. And then I hope you can see, no matter how many pages I create, this word effects of corruption will appear in every page. Okay, it will appear on every page, but remember the word running head appeared only on the first page because I clicked this option, different first page. So I have a different setting for the first page, but whatever I put on page 2 will appear in every other page. Yeah, that's why you need to select the option different first page. So there's a way you can make this default, but don't make this default because in most cases you'll be working with APS 7th edition, which does not use this option. But in case you want to put this as a default option, you can just I think you will need to go to paragraph setup, and then you find it somewhere there that you will set it at default. I don't know if I can get that right now, that you need to set that at default. Let me just check. Paragraph and then line breaks, and then you can just let me see, tabs, no, should be somewhere there. Let me just check. General outline, it should be under somewhere that you can set it as a default, but maybe if you need to get that, I can show you in person, but it should be somewhere that you can just put that as a default. I think this is where, yeah, layout. You can click this and set as default so that this option is always selected. The option for different first page is always selected. But for APS 7, make sure it's not checked. So if you want to set that as default, I think you just go to layout and then page setup. Under layout, you can just find this option and check it. But for now, don't. So after you check this, set as default. So that's all for APS 6. If you have any question, just hit me up.